Hi, I'm Diane Myers from Texas Women's University, and today we'll be talking about PBIS in the classroom, reinforcement. Let's start by reviewing the definition of reinforcement. You might remember that we talked about reinforcement in our first Behavior Basics module, and if you want a refresher, you can go back and review that module. Reinforcement means that we have increased the likelihood of a behavior in the future. Remember our three-term contingency? An antecedent is a stimulus that precedes a behavior. The behavior is defined as an observable and measurable act of an individual. And a consequence is any stimulus presented or taken away contingently on a particular response. Where in the three-term contingency does reinforcement happen? If you said consequence, you're right. Reinforcement happens as a result of a behavior, and it increases the likelihood of that behavior happening again in the future. If you're going to establish and teach your expectations, you need to make sure that those new and more appropriate behaviors are reinforced. You want to increase the likelihood of those behaviors happening and continuing into the future. We can use a variety of evidence-based practices, such as praise and rewards, to increase the likelihood of behaviors that you want to see in the future. One thing to remember is that rewards and bribes are not the same thing. Rewards are delivered contingently on the appropriate behavior. Bribes, on the other hand, come before a behavior. Here's what a bribe looks like. Lindell, I'll give you 5 minutes on the computer now if you promise to stay on task today. Here's what rewarding a student looks like. Lindell, you did a wonderful job staying on task today. You've earned some computer time. Do you see the difference? In a bribe, we give the student a reward before he or she engages in the behavior. If we're truly rewarding a student, we give that student the consequence after he or she performs the desired behavior. Bribes are not okay, and we do not want to be bribing our students. Some of you might be thinking, why are we rewarding kids just for doing what they're supposed to be doing anyway? Well, we need to make a connection between reinforcement and appropriate behavior. Remember, behavior followed by pleasant consequences tends to be repeated. However, some of the consequences for behaving well in school are not always obvious to our students, and they don't always maintain the behaviors that we want to see. For instance, appropriate behavior in school can lead to teacher approval, staying out of trouble at home, getting a good job someday, getting into a good college someday. But sometimes those kinds of reinforcers are not enough to maintain the behaviors that we want to see. So we need to set up that relationship by providing some reinforcement for the appropriate behavior. Then we can shift towards more natural reinforcers. Right now, natural reinforcers might not be enough to maintain those behaviors that we want to see. One question I want you to think about is, why not give attention contingently on appropriate behavior? When students engage in inappropriate behavior, we respond with a reprimand or we issue a consequence. We give attention to inappropriate behavior all the time. We should be giving at least as much attention, if not more, to the behaviors that we want to see in the future as we do to the behaviors that we don't want to see in the future. We also should be thinking functionally about students' behavior. Many times our students misbehave in order to get attention. Why not give them attention for something they've done that's appropriate? Reward appropriate behavior with attention rather than our students having to act out in order to get attention. We want to create a culture where kids and staff focus on what's being done correctly rather than waiting for a mistake to happen and then responding to it. Some of you might be asking if rewards are dangerous. Years and years of research indicate the contrary. Rewards are not dangerous, and rewards do not diminish intrinsic motivation. For example, I know that all of you are dedicated teachers and you love seeing students learn in your classroom and grow into mathematicians and readers and good citizens. I know that you're highly motivated by that, and I know that getting paid for your work does not diminish how rewarding it is for you. The extrinsic reward of your salary does not diminish the intrinsic motivation that you feel on a daily basis as you see your students grow and develop as learners. In the classroom, we can use a continuum of strategy to reinforce appropriate behavior, including specific and contingent praise statements, behavior contracts, group contingencies, and token economies. Let's talk a little bit about each of these. Praise is the most common reinforcer in the classroom. The most effective praise statements are those that are specific and contingent. Specific praise statements state explicitly the behavior that's being praised. For example, Jonathan, I like how you just raised your hand and showed how to be respectful in the classroom. You state the behavior that's being praised, and you can use the language from your classroom matrix. When you make a specific praise statement like that, it lets the student know exactly what behavior earned the praise. It serves as a verbal reminder to all of the other students in the classroom about the expected behavior, and it lets that student know that you're really paying attention to him or her. So for students whose behavior is maintained by attention, this can be a really helpful way to give them individualized attention without too much effort on your part. Contingent just means that the praise happens as a result of the behavior. It happens directly after the behavior. Let's test your knowledge. For the following, identify if the praise statement is specific and contingent. Are you ready? Rod, I like how you're sitting quietly. Yes, that's a good example of a specific and contingent praise statement. Todd, you're doing a great job. That's a praise statement, but it's not specific. Class, you all did very well staying on task yesterday. Well, it's a specific praise statement, but it's not contingent since it references a behavior that happened yesterday. Ned, you're doing a really great job taking notes. That is a specific praise statement. Maud, your skirt is lovely. Well, that's not praise at all. That's just a compliment. I was just checking to see if you were paying attention. I like how Sherry and Terry are raising their hands. That is a specific praise statement. You can deliver praise statements to more than one person at a time. That's the way to do it, Nelson. Keep it up. That is not a specific praise statement. Lastly, look at this example. Ralph, you're making a lot of progress in your independent work today. Doing independent work will help you next year in junior high. That's a specific and contingent praise statement, and the teacher has added a benefit, pointing out to Ralph why his behavior will help him in the future. That's a great way to increase the effectiveness of your praise statements. Let's look a little bit more closely about that. Adding a benefit to your specific contingent praise statement can really make it a little bit more effective because it points out to students exactly how that behavior can help them in the future. For example, Julia, I like how your desk is organized. When you're organized, you feel better and can accomplish more. What would be a benefit for the following examples of praise statements? Romeo, great job getting a 98 on your spelling test. How about being a better speller will help you be a better writer? Othello, I like how you helped Desdemona pick up the belongings she dropped. Helping others is a good way to make friends. Iago, you did really well at taking turns on the playground. How about taking turns means everyone gets a chance to play. And finally, terrific job, Polonius, you were able to stay quiet during all of math class. We could add a benefit so that statement sounds like this. Terrific job, Polonius, you were able to stay quiet during all of math class. When students are quiet, everybody can learn. All of your praise statements should sound sincere. You should vary your praise in content and tone according to the situation and according to student preference. Remember, students can satiate on certain phrases. That is, they can get tired of certain phrases if they hear them all the time. So if the only praise statement you utter is good job, you might want to change it up a little bit. Also, not every praise statement needs to be specific or state a benefit. However, once you start using specific praise statements, you'll become more fluent with that habit and it will become much easier for you. Be sure to deliver praise in your natural demeanor. If you're naturally a low-key, laid-back kind of person, your praise should sound low-key and kind of laid-back. If you're more excited and bubbly in your instructional delivery, you want it to sound as sincere as possible. One thing to remember is that not all students will find praise reinforcing. You might be able to tell by their body language after you praise them. You might be able to tell if they stop engaging in the behavior that you praised, that they did not find it reinforcing. For these students, it's important that they still get feedback on their appropriate behavior, and you can do this through written feedback, either on an assignment or on a sticky note that you put on the student's desk, or you could talk privately with the student after class and just let the student know what he or she did that really got your attention today and that really did make a difference in the classroom. Remember, everyone likes to know that he or she is doing a good job. I know that we like to hear from our supervisors that we're doing well, and our students like that too. In addition addition to specific praise statements, there are a few other strategies that we can use in our classroom. One of them is behavioral contracts. Students who don't always engage in appropriate behavior might benefit from having a behavioral contract. That's something you can do with an individual student, a group of students, or with your whole class. What we already know about contracts is that they're written, that both parties negotiate the terms, that both parties sign the contract, and that it's binding and indicates what both parties are responsible for doing. In a behavioral contract, we need to have a measurable definition of the expected behavior and the criteria for performance of that behavior. For instance, you wouldn't want to just say student will complete assignments. You would want to add student will complete assignments within 24 hours after they are assigned and with 85% accuracy. The more specific we are, the less chance for confusion for the student and for the teacher. We want to have a clear description of reinforcers. That is, what does the teacher promise to do if the student is able to meet the terms of the contract? We also need to be clear about outcomes if the student does not meet the expectations. For example, what happens if the student turns in the assignments but doesn't meet the 85% criteria? Or the student just doesn't turn in the requisite number of assignments? Is the contract null and void? Does the period of when he or she can turn in assignments start again? Does it just skip the day that the assignment doesn't come in and resume? This is something that needs to be negotiated in the early stages of contract writing. In addition, you might want to include any special bonuses that could increase motivation and participation. For instance, if there's going to be a situation that might increase the likelihood of inappropriate behavior, you could consider adding special bonuses to the contract, for instance, during testing periods or when there's going to be a substitute teacher in the classroom. A few more things to think about in terms of designing a behavioral contract. The contract must be fair. The learner should be able to complete the expected behavior. Remember, the reward must be delivered after the behavior occurs. Otherwise, it's a bribe, and we do not bribe our students. The contract should be positively stated. Rather than student will not be late to class, say student will arrive on time for class. The contract should stress specific behaviors rather than obedience. So rather than student will meet all expectations, state specifically the expectations on which you want the student to focus. Another type of reinforcement that we can use in the classroom is group contingencies. In a group contingency, you arrange reinforcement for the whole group based on demonstration of appropriate behavior. And this can look a few different ways. You might have a dependent group contingency, an interdependent group contingency, or an independent group contingency. Let's talk a little about what each of those can look like. In a dependent group contingency, the performance of an individual or small group results in reinforcement for the whole group. That is, the reinforcement for the whole group depends on the behavior of one or a few students. Here's an example. Sammy was able to earn extra recess for her entire class once she completed 5 homework assignments. Or, Gavin earned a class lunch for his whole chemistry class after he successfully cleaned up his area 5 days in a row. So some of you might be thinking that peer pressure could be an issue in the dependent group contingency, and you're right. To avoid negative peer pressure, you want to make sure that the behavior is a no-fail for the learner. That is, eventually the learner will be able to complete the behavior and earn the reinforcer for the group. Also, make sure that you're reinforcing the other students in the group for encouraging and rooting for the student on whom the reinforcement depends. So this can really go a long way towards creating a positive community in your classroom and building that culture of encouragement and working together. In an interdependent group contingency, each student's behavior is required for the whole group to earn reinforcement. That is, everyone must engage in the behavior in order for everyone to earn reinforcement. This could look like if everyone in the 5th grade remembers to say thank you to the lunch attendant, the entire 5th grade can earn an ice cream sandwich. Or, anytime that all students in AP English turn in their assignment on time, everyone earns an extra credit point. Again, you can avoid negative peer pressure by ensuring that there's a culture of cheering each other on and encouraging each other and making sure that it's a no-fail situation for your learners, that everybody in the group will be able to eventually perform the desired behavior. Finally, in an independent group contingency, All students have the same goal, but reinforcement is delivered individually based on individual performance. That is, if you engage in the appropriate behavior, you will earn the reinforcer. So this could look like, when each of you finishes your assignment, you may go outside to play dodgeball. Or, when a student completes all homework for the week, he or she earns a turn-in homework late pass for the following week. In the independent group contingency, each person is accountable for his or her own behavior and earning of the reward. You lose that community building that's possible in the dependent and interdependent group contingencies, but the potential for negative peer pressure is diminished. With all group contingencies, a big concern is that the same reinforcer might not work for everybody. For instance, if you don't like dodgeball, earning dodgeball might not be something in which you're interested, and therefore you may be less motivated to engage in the required behavior. Token economies give us a way to provide multiple reinforcers to the same group. Token economies have been used successfully in all kinds of settings, from the most restrictive special education placements to general education classrooms. They've been associated with all kinds of improved appropriate behaviors, increased in academic scores, better classroom management, and overall student performance increases. How does a token economy work? Well, we begin with generalized reinforcers, which could be tokens, coupons, points, tickets, something that students can earn contingently on appropriate behavior that can be exchanged for something that is valuable to the students. If this sounds familiar to you, it's because it's analogous to a system with which you're very familiar. In real life, we earn dollars for going to work, for interest on savings, for buying stocks. Students can earn dollars in their real lives for chores, maybe having a part-time job, and these dollars are exchanged for your rent or your mortgage, movie tickets, bills, utilities, vacations, new shoes, something of value to you. In a token economy, students can earn tokens or points contingent on completing tasks, accuracy of task completion, social behaviors like hand raising or participating, being on task, and then students exchange those tokens or points for social time activities, something tangible like stickers, maybe a privilege like being line leader or being able to run errands. They can exchange these at the school store, or they can have a choice of activity. You can have a variety of reinforcers available for your students. Unlike other reinforcers, in a token economy, you can deliver the tokens anytime without interrupting instruction, and it's helpful for those students who may not respond well to your verbal praise. Token distribution can be quantitatively related to the behavior displayed. For instance, a hand raise might earn 1 token, but helping someone who's dropped all of his or her books could earn 4 or 5 tokens. In a token economy, teachers can use the same reinforcement system even if students have very, very different preferences when it comes to backup reinforcers. You can have a wide variety of backup reinforcers available to students, and you can actually ask students what they would like to work for and use their ideas to help shape your system. Research has shown us time and time again that token economies work for all ages, all grade levels, and in all types of educational settings. In a token economy, you need 2 things: the tokens themselves, which should be portable, durable, easy to use, and resistant to counterfeiting, and you need the backup reinforcers. The tokens themselves shouldn't have any value, they're just a means to an end. Make sure that your tokens and your backup reinforcers are delivered contingently on appropriate behavior. Students should not earn tokens before a behavior. Again, we want to avoid bribing students. Only give tokens and reinforcement contingent on performance of the desired behavior. Backup reinforcers should be something that the learners value, and like I said earlier, you can solicit student input as you select your backup reinforcers. If you'd like some more information on reinforcers by type and by level, you can refer to the Student Services website, specifically the PBIS section on the AISD intranet. To summarize, there are several evidence-based practices that you can use to reinforce appropriate behavior in the classroom, including specific and contingent praise statements, behavioral contracts, group contingencies, the dependent, interdependent, and independent group contingencies, and token economies. And remember, with any kind of reinforcement, it should be delivered after the appropriate behavior occurs. We want to increase the likelihood that that behavior will happen again, and remember, behaviors followed by pleasant consequences tend to be repeated. For more information, please refer to the Student Services Intranet website and consult with members of your campus PBIS team. Thank you.